Yeah, so if a flight is cancelled last minute, we proactively contact the client. We'll get in touch, look at the options, uh, recheck the availability on where we can actually get the passenger onto the next available flight. But initially, it's all about the communication with the traveller. We feel that we've got a duty of care with that traveller, so we must emphasise that to the traveller to make sure that he's safe, he gets on the next flight, he's protected, and overall, arrives in that destination, albeit late, but he arrives safely and then continue his journey onwards. Yeah, absolutely. We engage with the customer, making sure that they're safe and sound, and it's all about making sure that they are protected onto the next flight, not left to their own devices, not sort of left at the airport thinking, "What shall I do?" It's all about us communicating with that traveller, reassuring them, and making that their continued journey goes smoothly as possible. Yeah, it's a little bit more tricky when it's 10 travellers, but it's mainly because obviously once a flight is cancelled, we try to reprotect travellers as soon as we can, but a lot of TMCs and a lot of other travellers are in the same position. So it's all about being proactive. So it's about checking that availability with different airlines, making sure we can get as many people on the same flight as we can. Not always possible, granted, but it's getting those flights where they're not going to be disrupted too much. We try and get flights within the hour or within 2 hours, even if it's with different airlines, even if it means cancelling the original ticket that they're on and booking a new ticket. It's just putting that human touch to the travellers and making sure they're all protected and, as they, continue their journey as smoothly as possible. Absolutely, because it would be just chaos. It would be chaos on an app. We need that human touch. And it's all about duty of care as well. We don't want to be, we all know what it's like with technology these days. Some of it's great, some of it not so great, but you also need that human feel. And I think especially with travellers, a lot of travelling can bring anxiety on people. They are nervous travellers. Some nervous clients out there. They just need that reassurance. They need that human touch. At the end of a phone, talking them through the next steps. They're not being left at the airport with thousands of people trying to do the same thing. They're being protected by us as a travel management company. We have the technology now where we can actually track travellers, so we know if that client will be late. And again, it's been proactively thinking, okay, he's not going to meet that connection, and it's about making sure that he does get the next connection, so he's protected. So when he does arrive, because he'll be anxiety off the scale, thinking that, yeah, we're going to be late and not meet the connection, knowing that when they do land, they have that protection and then knowing they're going to be on that next flight. Yeah, if it's certainly if it's a different carrier at a different terminal, we can arrange meet and greets. If it's for a different airport, we can arrange transfers from the original airport they land to another airport. We can do that literally at a drop of a hat. We can proactively think and make sure that that client, when they do land, knowing that they have that transportation to either go to another airport or they've been informed it's a different airline from a different terminal, given the option of a meet and greet to make sure when they do arrive they're not looking lost. Yeah, we've had many examples in the past. We've had the volcanic ash, which is a great example where all the transportation or all the flights were grounded. Again, it's about reaching out to that traveller, giving the reassurance, keeping them updated, keeping them informed, looking at alternatives, looking to checking with the airlines to see when the next available flights are, and things like if it's a natural event like a hurricane, again it's the duty of care thing, making sure that the travellers are safe and they're not travelling when it's unsafe. Just keeping them informed. It's all about the communication. Yeah, certainly with a lot of airlines, it could be just the ownership because when they if there is a cancellation or a strike, the airlines don't tend to be too helpful on the ground, and that's when you need again the human touch, a travel management company to reach out and look at different alternatives. May not be flights, it may be ground arrangements, a hotel for another night. All those aspects come into it, and it's again about the duty of care. Yeah, we obviously, I know it's old fashioned, but we pick up a telephone, or if we can't get in contact with the traveller by telephone, we would email them, or we get in contact with the personal assistants to make sure that they are aware of the situation as well. So they can also get in contact with the traveller if we're unable to. Yeah, when the traveller starts to put their own fixes, it does come a little bit complicated because, in theory, the airline has taken over that booking. So if anything was to happen going forward from there, we've lost control. So that's why we'd prefer us to reach out to the customer first, make sure they're at ease, make sure they don't do that. We actually, we're a TM, we're a travel management company. We need to proactively do that for them to make the travellers travelling less stressful. The main mistakes are incorrect names, especially if they booked on the app. We get a lot of people that actually spell their name incorrectly, which I know sometimes it can be a quick fix sometimes, but also depending on the airline, it could also be quite a tricky situation. We do get travellers, again, booking via the app, booking incorrect flights, and also other arrangements, they book incorrectly, and we then have to fix that going forward. But as a travel management company, we're there to help in any way you can, and it'd probably be a little bit of a training session for the actual traveller going forward to make sure they don't make the same mistake again. Yeah, we have, again, we have the technology. We know what the connections are like. Again, perhaps on an app, if it's a tight connection, what we say, it is a legal but tight connection. The app will allow you to book that. But again, looking at the human feel, we would look at that connection and thinking, hang on a minute, I don't think you'll make that. Even though it's a valid connection, we have the experience. We've gone through those airports. We know what those airports are like. It only takes a flight to be 10 minutes late on a 45-minute connection. There's no way you will meet that connection. We would sort of suggest, oh, okay, we know that's a good connection. However, I suggest you go for a bigger connection to maximize, to make sure you don't actually miss that connection, because if you miss that connection, it could end up being a lot worse than waiting around for an hour. Yeah, again, it's the human feel. We give them a lot of reassurance. We know there's a lot of anxious travellers who have to travel but don't want to travel. It's about it's about the one shop. We will provide everything. We'll provide a transfer to the airport. We provide a meet and greet. We provide the flights. We provide the hotel. We provide the car hire, transportation on the other side. Again, hotels, etc. We do it all. Even if they need fast track through security, we can provide that. So we can provide all the things to make the traveller's experience so much less stressful. So flexibility, these days there's various different products when buying a flight. In the past you only had the option of non-refundable, non-changeable or a total flexible ticket. These days you've got varied different types which you can book. You can still book your non-changeable, non-flexible ticket, which is fine for some travellers, which is what we call a light ticket. You also get semi-flexible tickets these days where you can have a cancellation charge, you can have the flexibility of changing a ticket for a charge, and you also have the total flexible tickets, which, to be honest, not many people go for these days, only purely because the semi-flexible is more of an option, because people don't mind paying a cancellation fee if they do need to cancel, because the cost of that ticket is a lot less than the total flexible ticket. No, again, it's all knowledge that the travel consultant will have. The guys across all the teams have had a varied experience and a lot of years of experience. We suggest to the traveller to be as fixed as they possibly can. I know that's not always the case. We do encourage travellers to book early on to get the better tickets. However, we know that plans do change when booking early and actually travelling. Again, we would suggest a semi-flexible ticket. So if they do need to cancel, they can for a small fee. If they do need to change, then again, it's a small fee to change. We also suggest that if the traveller comes to us and says, I'm definitely not travelling, and it's a non-refundable ticket, we would suggest that they move the ticket to a later date in the year. It may not be a date that they actually intend on travelling on, but we can always change that ticket again, so they're not actually losing the value of that ticket. Yeah, it depends on the time scale. If it's a last minute thing, and it also depends on the client as well, on how strict the approval is. If they got a strict approval, obviously we would adhere to that. We'll say to them, you need to get approval before actually changing the ticket. We'd also give them the option of saying, how about if you can't get approval, we can actually take a personal charge, and then you can claim that back through the company. We can get involved with somebody at the company that the client that they're booking through to try and speed up the approval process. Yeah, as we've mentioned before, the trouble is, once the airline do push to themselves changing the ticket, it's the airline effectively takes over, so we actually lose control of that journey. So what we actually suggest is, before the traveller actually thinks about doing that, or the airline does that, is to come and contact us beforehand, and we will give them the advice on what the next best action would be. So our out of hours is a very similar model to our consultants now. It's not a call centre. We give that human feel. You're not in a line of people waiting to be answered. They're very much our model, where we will take a look at it, evaluate the situation, and we'll proactively make the changes when necessary. We would also give the best advice to the traveller. The traveller won't feel like a robot, basically. We don't have a robotic call centre. So the response to the service level agreement we have is 2 hours. With out of hours, it depends on the demand at the time, because usually if there is an event that goes on, everybody will call the out of hours line. But we have a contingency in place where us, the consultants, would also in a main event, in a main situation, we would also jump on board and log into the phones to help the out of hours service, and also primarily to help the travellers. The difference there would be, yes, we would obviously answer the call. The person will come through to an experienced consultant who would then take ownership. They would never be bounced around to different, even if the traveller called a different line within the business, that person will take ownership and make sure, because we all know it's annoying that when you get passed from pillar to post, it's about making the traveller or the client feel comfortable, and we have a standard operating process now, so everybody within the travel business knows exactly what to do. Whether you're a client for one team or client for another team, it will be the same process, so everybody's on the same page. Yeah, so we have a bit of kit now where we have traveller tracking. So we are able to see where all the travellers are across the globe on one portal. So if an incident did happen, we can locate where those travellers are, get in contact with those travellers, and also the client as well, to make sure the personal assistants are kept up to date, making sure the travellers are safe. If they need any reassurance or any extra nights accommodation, we can get that booked for them. So once the major incidents pass, the traveller then can continue on with their journey home. Yeah, it's just the reassurance that knowing that we are there, we're at the end of the phone. They possibly wouldn't contact us, we would contact them. As I say, we now have the Travel Guardian tracking, so we know where those particular travellers are in a certain destination. We also identifies the areas across the globe where are possibly more acceptable to crisis than others, what we call the red zones. So we know we would take particular care on those travellers when they're travelling to that particular country. Yeah, again, we have a tracking process. We know where the travellers are. If they do decide to stay on for their own personal reasons, we would just drop them either a call or an email, firstly to make sure they're okay, because we know that they've missed their flight, but also to assist if they needed any extra accommodation, or if they need another flight booking to come home. We find that apps work well for people that are familiar with booking tools. They're familiar with booking their own flights, for personal reasons. We find that they're great for what we call point-to-point travel. So your London Edinburghs, or your London Paris returns. We find that's great. When I think they don't find it so great is when they have what we call multi-trips, where they have a few stops to book on the app. And that comes a little bit more tricky, and that's when you need the knowledge of a travel consultant. Apps are great, they are quick. You can check out straight away, it gives you the approval, it gives you a good baseline to know what you want. And if you needed that assistance, then you can come offline to a travel consultant. Yeah, apps definitely fail at things like multi-trips. They're not so great at picking up connection journeys. If a traveler wants to go to various different destinations, that's when you need that human touch. They need to look at that booking, because the app doesn't always give you the best price. It may actually give you multiple tickets, which multiple tickets aren't so great when if you miss a connection, because if you're not on the same ticket, that airline doesn't have to honour that onward connection because you've booked actually as a separate ticket. These are all the things that a travel consultant wouldn't actually know. They would know that if it's on one ticket, you'll be protected going forward. They know not necessarily multiple tickets would be the cheapest option. It could be just on one ticket, whereas the app perhaps has just thought it would be cheaper, but in effect it isn't. Yeah, an app wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't alert that traveller. So we have the knowledge to know when a crisis is going to happen. As I explained, we have the traveller tracking. We would get in touch. We would reassure the traveller and making sure that they're safe with that duty of care. They're not seeing the value of a travel consultant. What they're doing is then they could possibly not be doing attention to detail. I mean, we are the experts. They could book the wrong date. They could book the wrong time. They may not get the cheapest quote, whereas a human could actually make sure we have a lot of attention to detail, make sure everything's correct. We cross-reference with emails, making sure the traveler's name's correct, making sure the flights are correct, making sure they got the best price. Because you have that human feel. Sometimes you need to contact somebody at the end of a phone or even an email. It's just having that contact. It's that, again, that reassurance, making the traveller less anxious about travelling. I'm sure a lot of travellers out there don't like travelling. They have to travel because it's their job. It's making it ease for them. With an app, you just lose that human touch. It's very robotic. If things go wrong, 9 times out of 10, the robot can't fix it. A human can, always.